So coming into the beginning of this chapter, we're seeing Emu, who has taken over Saturn at God Valley, and they're killing Marines that are like in front of them just simply because they're in their way. They're killing pirates too, but it just shows that like, yeah, Emu doesn't care about the Marines, which is understandable because they're not celestial dragons. And that's also a really interesting thing. It's like, I guess loyalty is like a big thing to Emu that they actually care about, because they do care for the celestial dragons, which are descendants of the 20 kingdoms that allied with Emu back in the Void Century. And we have seen celestial dragons be executed before, such as like Mjosgard by Garling, but that's because Mjosgard kind of like betrayed the celestial dragons, I guess, by like helping fishmen or whatever. But still, there is some kind of altruism to Emu in a weird way. I'm also going to talk about this next break week with Sai, about how Emu might be like the weird kind of protector of the world. But aside from that, we're seeing how Emu looks here. We're getting like a clear image of them. Well, not what they actually look like. They still look like a black blob. And that makes you wonder, like, is this what Emu actually looks like? Or is it just classic Oda silhouette core still going on for, I think like 6 years now or something, maybe even 7. It probably has something to do with their devil fruit, why they look like this on top of Saturn, you know, the manipulation form or whatever. But I'm sure there is like a real like human form to what Emu looks like. We're also seeing Roger and Garp react to this, because Roger, talking to the rest of the Roger pirates, is like, hey, you know, get the treasure and then get out of here. And he implies that he's going to stay behind and fight Emu. And Scopper's like, you and this again? Don't overdo it, all right? And it implies that Roger kind of knows what's going on here, because he could easily just leave right now with the treasure, but he's choosing to stay here because he knows things. Even before going to Laugh Tale, he seems to have insight into what's going on with Emu possibly, or just the world government in general. This flashback is more about rocks than anything, so I guess we're just gonna have to wait for another Roger flashback, if we get that, where we find out everything that he knows, because there is a reason why he's doing everything that he does and eventually goes to Laugh Tale, so he definitely knows some stuff. We just don't know what he knows yet. And as for Garp, I'm gonna say it, I really like the way that he behaves in this chapter, because he's like, what's going on? What kind of monster is that? And the Marine that he's talking to is like, he just transformed out of nowhere. And Garp's like, it's the first time I've seen an elder, but that's exactly how I pictured those B words. And even him just saying that is like making the other Marine shook. So this confirms for sure that Garp knows that this is a Gorosei, who is said to, you know, the rest of the world to be the highest authority of the world government. And we'll come back to Garp because he has some other great moments, and I'll talk more about how he's possibly redeemed and all that stuff. But we're seeing Rox now confront Emu. And he's like, hey, King of Rats, she came here to kill me, right? And Emu's like, so it was you, Davy Jones. And Rox is like, nah, that's not me. I never met the guy. But I am going to keep that promise, with promise in bold and quotes. And Emu's like, it's for that very promise that I shall blot you from the pages of history, because my world isn't completed yet. So Emu calling Rox Davy Jones here is kind of just equating him to Davy Jones, because he's like the Rox of the Void Century from like 800, 900 years ago. And Emu existed during that time, so for sure Emu probably fought against Davy Jones along with Joy Boy at that time as well. And Davy Jones was probably trying to take down Emu the same way that Rox was. We know that Rox has inherited Davy Jones's will the same way that Luffy has inherited Joy Boy's will. You know, the will of D, because Davy was Davy D. Jones. And as for Emu saying their world isn't completed yet, well, I guess there's just some more construction and things that need to be done to complete it. Because the way that the One Piece world is, like with the Red Line, the Grand Line, the tides, the high elevation of water, the way that the islands are, it wasn't originally like that. Emu, during the Void Century, after they won the big war against the Ancient Kingdom, they constructed it to be this way. And that's why there is like that void in time, like that 100-year gap, because it took 100 years to build the world with the Red Line and the Grand Line and all that stuff. Also, that's not confirmed, by the way. It's never said anywhere that this is why things are the way that they are and it happened during that time. It's just, we can kind of put 2 and 2 together and assume that's how things happen. But Rox winds up attacking Emu, and Garp and the Marines are watching this, and they're like, wow, he's attacking Saint Saturn. Should we help him, Garp? You know, referring to should we help Saturn, because why would the Marines try to help Rox? friggin' pirate. And Garp's like, of course we should help him. Get out of my way. And they're like, wait, who are we supposed to help? And Garp does go on to attack Emu/Saturn, which we'll talk about. And I love it. I love that Garp is doing this. He clearly knows what's going on here, but seeing that Emu was attacking the Marines, just killing them nonchalantly, made Garp instantly realize, like, okay, I know it has to be done here. Now, let's get into the elephant in the room here. Does this redeem Garp? Both yes and no. There has to be some kind of meaningful explanation as to, first of all, why Emu and Saturn allow Garp to remain not only alive after this, but also a Marine. I mean, just aside from him attacking them, it's him just being a D in the first place. Even though the Ds don't know what D means, you know, what Emu said to Cobra back at the Reverie, it just doesn't make sense. And also why Garp stays a Marine after this. So some explanations are, Emu does something that wipes Garp's mind. That's a possibility. Number 2, Saturn and Emu make a deal with Garp or something. And number 3, Garp sees that it's better to stay as a Marine and try to overthrow them from the inside out, the world government. Because, in my opinion, I think Garp started Sword. And Sword is supposed to be like the real Marines, like the true justice that aren't necessarily operating with the world government and their totalitarian regime, more so kind of just trying to be a real altruistic police force in the world. And his ultimate goal is to one day maybe they'll overthrow them and they don't have to worry about the world government and the celestial dragons and all that stuff. That's fine. But at the same time, for the last 40 years, because this has been a slow burn plan from Garp, if that is the case, he has still been facilitating the celestial dragons, the world government, and all of the awful things that they do. He even went out of his way to help with the execution of Ace, who is essentially his freaking son. So that's why I just fully can't get on board with Garp, especially when we see what his son Dragon immediately does after he just finds out what went on with the hunting games. Dragon doesn't even know about Emu at this point. I mean, maybe he will soon. But also let me point out, a lot of this agenda stuff is just fun, right? It's fun to pick a side. It's fun to be tribal. Even though I inherently as a person am not very tribal, which I guess more so goes into my tragic backstory, which we won't get into now, but this community that we have, not just the community on this channel, but just the spoiler community as a whole, we experience One Piece in a very different way than the rest of the community. You know, there's that bigger part of the community that just follows when the chapter drops, you know, from the scans or whatever. And then there's a portion that just follows the officials. And then there's a portion that just watches YouTube videos to see what happened every now and then. And then, of course, there's the majority of the fandom that just watches the anime episodes. But we, in the spoiler community, find out things incrementally. So we can have multiple reactions to things as we find them out. So one day we can be like, oh, this character's awful. And then the next day we'd be like, oh, maybe they're not so bad. And then the next day we'd be like, oh my God, this is the greatest character ever. It's part of the fun, to be honest. It's not like I'm trying to die on my sword or ride or die about this stuff. And I know I do get emotional in some of these reviews, just as some other creators do as well, but it's just a part of the fun. And that's why I'm doing this, because it is fun. I don't really have to like do this anymore. I choose to do it because I like doing it, and I want to see One Piece ride out. I want to be here until the end of One Piece, you know, however long that takes. Hopefully I don't retire before then, but you know, I plan on at least finishing One Piece as Zhoniin. But ultimately what I'm saying is that I'm open to changing, for sure. I'm not staunch in my beliefs. I'm not going to go out on my shield just because my ego is taking over, or I don't want to be seen as wrong or whatever. If you followed my channel, you know that I'm wrong all the time, and I'm very happy to admit that. I'm also right a lot too, and I try not to harp too much on it, although it is fun to like say like, hey, I was right, because, you know, I have like thousands of people telling me that I'm wrong, which is just, you know, part of being a creator. It's kind of like the market. It goes up and down. Sometimes you guys like me, sometimes you guys despise me, and sometimes you guys just feel indifferent about me. It's just a part of the game. And I'm not saying like feel bad about me or I'm a victim or anything, because I'm not. I chose to do this, and I continue to. Garp isn't like a real person, although that's a part of the fun as well, making these characters in this story seem like it's real, because following it the way that we do, especially the way that I do, it's almost like sports. And I guess that's always kind of been my thing as Zhoniin since the beginning, because I come from sports. Not like the mainstream sports, like football and basketball and baseball and all that stuff. I'm more so a big fan of the alternative sports. So I just wanted to give you some insight into why I am the way that I am and why I see things the way that I do and why I project myself and kind of live vicariously through these characters. Because if they don't do something that I personally agree with, I'll air my grievances towards it. But ultimately, it's just for fun and for the content and for us to just look forward to something to do every week. You know, we're following this the way that you would sports or something. And it's okay to be angry at me and not agree with what I'm saying. It's just a part of the game. So let's just keep playing it, because I'm not really going to change. I mean, I will try to evolve, but I still will be hyperbolic about things, especially if we just get the first glimpse of information on it before everything's fully fleshed out, because it's what I want to do. Anyway, tangent over. We're also seeing that Captain John has Kid's devil fruit, which is interesting. I mean, it's more so, I guess, supposed to parallel to something, maybe what Kid ultimately does later on in the series, but he uses it to like attract all of the treasure to him. And this angers Gonzoi, who we find out has Mr. Five's bomb fruit. And he like launches a booger at him and just straight up defeats Captain John with one booger. So I guess that means that Captain John's not really that powerful in relation to the rest of the Rocks pirates. It also made me think that like the users of the bomb fruit, man, they could really take advantage of it if they threw like a turd at somebody, you know? Instead of just wasting your time on these boogers, just, you know, store up some turds and just boom, you know what I mean? We're also seeing Dragon, who's holding Baby Shanks at this point, gets like hurled in this sequence, and it eventually leads to like him letting go of Baby Shanks, and Baby Shanks himself just crawls into a treasure chest, and then that's eventually going to lead to the Roger Pirates finding him and then raising him. Then we're coming to Big Mom trying to get her revenge on Kaido, because Kaido took the Azure Dragon fruit from her, which she was going to give to her son Katakuri, and he just immediately ate it, and we see like this is the first moments of him being the dragon. So now she's coming back after him, you know, super angry, and at the same time we see Rocks, Whitebeard, Roger, and Garp all attacking Imu. So Big Mom is indirectly attacking Imu as well, trying to get at Kaido, and vice versa with Kaido, you know, attacking her. And it all winds up with them attacking Imu at the same time in this incredible sequence. And this double page is so cool. This is the first time I think we've ever seen 5 characters on this level attack somebody at the same time, because we've never been this high on the power scale before. This is essentially all of the strongest characters in the world at this point in time, all attacking at once against Imu, you know, the one above all, essentially. And they're all using named attacks. Even Rocks, which his attack is called Pandemonium. I think this is the first named attack that we're seeing from him. And of course, this really doesn't do anything to Imu. It doesn't even phase them, to be honest. They kind of just immediately go into trying to manipulate Rocks after this, but it's just because of the regeneration powers that they have, which is like seemingly Majin Buu level at this point. We still don't know why Imu could do this. We don't know what power Imu has. It's implied that they were able to harness the power of like this demon dragon that existed maybe 3,000 years ago or something. Again, just hypothesizing. We hardly really know anything. We're kind of just going off of the Harley text and the mural on the Atom Tree at Elbaf. But Imu comes back together after this and starts manipulating Rocks, saying like, hey, I could see your wife and kid running through the forest. It would suck if something happened to them. And then, you know, this angers Rocks and he goes after Imu again, and Imu just stabs him with their tendrils or whatever. And Rocks just no-sells this, which is awesome. But Imu's like, hey, just kill your wife and kids. And Rocks is like, what? Why would I do that? Of course I'm not going to do that. And Imu's like, well, how about Dami Reversi? I would be more shocked about this, but we've been talking about it literally all week. We knew that this was going to happen. However, it didn't happen the way that I thought. We're kind of just seeing Rocks begin to become the demon at the end of this chapter, which I'm hoping means that Rocks like brute forces through this. Like he can unreversi or Dami Versi. You know what I mean? Because if anybody could do that, it would definitely be Rocks. And I'm hoping he could just get out of this, because that would be incredible. And he just winds up dying traditionally, because unfortunately Rox is going to die here. We are already kind of seeing the beginning of it with Imu stabbing him. Not really sure. I just hope that he just doesn't become a subservient demon to Imu and then tries to even kill Eris and Teach. That would just, like I said before, almost be like a character assassination, to be honest. Like, Oda spent all this time making Rox essentially the best character in the series, only for him to just go out like such a chump, you know? So I'm hoping he can fight through this. Maybe it has something to do with his Davy D blood. And also, I just want to point out one more thing about the Dami Reversi. So it's like this thing that Imu could just do to you and make you into a subservient demon. And there was this theory going around earlier this week that in order to make this ability not so broken, it seems like the prerequisite for it is that you need to perform it on somebody while they're in their homeland. Because before this, we've only seen Imu do it to the giants at Elbaf, which, you know, where they come from, and then the Davy clan at God Valley, which is where they come from, along with Rox. So if that is the balancing act to that, that makes it somewhat better. It's still an incredibly broken ability, but at least it's not just like Imu could just do it to anyone, because that's what I've been talking about these last couple days, I guess weeks at this point. So I think it is that you have to do it on somebody in their homeland. And then also that raises the question of like, why does it work that way? Again, we don't know. We're just gonna have to wait for the Void Century flashback in like 6 years, I guess, once it's revealed like how Imu got their power, where it came from, because I think it's also not even a devil fruit, to be honest. I think this is probably something outside of devil fruits. It's even possible that Imu got this power before devil fruits were even a thing. Like somehow just directly pulled the power from that demon dragon itself without having to go through a devil fruit. I could be wrong. It could have just been the first devil fruit, like it was that demon dragon made into that, because I guess it's supposed to parallel to like how Joy Boy got the Nika fruit. Like Nika is implied to be like originally a person or a deity, maybe like a real deity, and then he died, I guess, against Imu or whatever, and then his soul or the idea of what he was eventually became the devil fruit, mythical Zoan modeled sun god Nika. And that could be the same thing with Imu. I don't really know, because it's just that Imu has so many freaking abilities that it's just like, I guess maybe it is the strongest devil fruit, because, you know, mythical Zoans already have multiple abilities. That's the way that Oda kind of like skirted around his own power system. But anyway, I'll stop rambling. Let me know what you think about this chapter in the comments, guys. If you liked it, please give it a like and please subscribe if you haven't already. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.